When giants answered the call, the crystal formations on Aurelia Prime sang their ancient songs as Commander Lyra Veltar pressed her webbed hand against the colony's communication console. Her translucent blue skin rippled with patterns of distress, the bioluminescent markings that covered her elongated form pulsing rapidly in the universal Aurelian expression of fear. Around her, the mining colony's control center buzzed with panicked activity as her people tried desperately to coordinate. Their defenses, the Aurelians, had never been warriors. Their homeworld was a peaceful water planet where conflicts were resolved through harmony and understanding. Their bodies reflected this peaceful nature, tall and graceful, with flowing fins and skin that changed color with emotion. They were built for swimming through coral cities and tending to the great kelp forests of their world, not for fighting battles among the stars. "Send the distress signal again," Lyra commanded, her voice carrying the musical quality of her species. "Broadcast on all Galactic Alliance frequencies. The ethereal collective must receive our call." Her communications officer, a young Aurelian named Finn Karanis, worked frantically at his station. His silver skin had taken on the deep purple hue of extreme anxiety. "Commander, the message is transmitting. The nearest ethereal patrol should receive it in 4 hours. 4 hours. Lyra looked through the transparent aluminum viewing port at the 3 Vorthok raider ships that had emerged from hyperspace an hour ago. The vessels were ugly things, all sharp angles and weapon ports, designed by a species that lived for conquest and plunder. They circled the mining colony like predators, occasionally firing warning shots that made the entire structure shudder. The vortex had come for the resonance crystals. These rare formations grew only on worlds like Aurelia Prime, where the unique magnetic fields created perfect conditions for their development. The crystals were essential for long-range space travel, powering the hyperdrives that connected the galaxy's civilizations. The Aurelian colony had been mining them peacefully for decades, trading with the Alliance species and maintaining the delicate balance that kept galactic commerce flowing. But the Vortex didn't believe in trade or balance. They were a warrior, species from a harsh desert world, their reptilian bodies covered in thick scales and natural armor. They took what they wanted through violence and intimidation. To them, the peaceful Aurelians were nothing more than obstacles to be removed. "Commander," called out Dr. Mia Telenas from the medical station. Her skin showed the pale green of deep concern. "We have 847 colonists in the facility. Our evacuation pods can only carry 300. The rest of us will have to wait for rescue ships." Markings flickered with the silver of determination mixed with the dark blue of despair. The ethereal collective was their closest ally, a species of energy beings who had protected the Aurelians for over 2 centuries. But even if they received the distress call immediately, their ships wouldn't arrive for at least 6 hours. Colony shields couldn't hold that long against sustained Vorthok fire. 300 light-years away, Captain Marcus Rodriguez was having the worst day of his month. The cargo hold of his freighter, the Iron Resolve, was packed with industrial equipment bound for the frontier colonies. Half his crew was down with some kind of space flu. His number 2 engine was making sounds that definitely weren't in the manual, and his coffee maker had broken that morning. Rodriguez wasn't the kind of man who looked like a starship captain. He was short and stocky, with weathered brown skin marked by years of hard work in space. His black hair was streaked with grey, and a scar ran from his left temple to his jaw, a souvenir from a cargo accident on Mars. His ship wasn't much prettier. The Iron Resolve had been built as an industrial hauler, designed to carry heavy loads between manufacturing worlds. Rodriguez had bought it cheap and modified it for long-range freight runs. "Captain," called out his communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim. The former Earth Navy officer was monitoring multiple frequencies from her station. "I'm picking up something weird on the emergency bands." Rodriguez walked over to look at her display. The signal was fragmented and strange, filled with harmonics and frequency patterns that human equipment struggled to interpret. "What language is that?" "Computers working on it," Kim replied. "But the signal structure suggests it's not from any human colony. The transmission patterns are too complex." Chief Engineer Kai Nakamura looked up from his repair work on the navigation console. The tall Japanese man had served on merchant ships for 15 years and had seen his share of strange signals. "Could be pirates using some kind of code, or it could be someone in real trouble," said Dr. Elena Vasquez from the medical bay. The ship's doctor was checking her supplies, her movements efficient and precise. She had served in the Earth Colonial Marines before joining Rodriguez's crew, and she knew the sound of desperation when she heard it. The translation computer finally made sense of the signal, displaying text on the main screen. Kim read it aloud. "This is Aurelia, prime mining colony to any Galactic Alliance vessels. We are under attack by Vorthok raiders, 3 ships, heavily armed. Request immediate assistance. Repeat, we are under attack and require immediate assistance." Rodriguez studied the broken message. Aurelia Prime wasn't on any of his star charts, but the desperation in the transmission was unmistakable. Someone out there was in serious trouble. "Kim, can you get a location?" "System designation AU-7741, about 3 hours away if we push the engines," Kim replied. "But Captain, we're not military, we're just a freight hauler." Nakamura nodded. "And my engines are already running hot. A 3-hour sprint might burn them out completely." Rodriguez looked round at his crew. 12 humans who had followed him from the dangerous shipping lanes of the inner system to the even more dangerous work of frontier freight running. They weren't soldiers or heroes. They were just people trying to make an honest living in a hostile universe. But the distress signal kept repeating. Someone out there was dying while he stood in his cargo bay doing nothing. "These Vorthoks," Rodriguez asked, "what do we know about them?" Kim checked her files. "Database says they're a warrior species. Aggressive expansionists from the Scorpius sector. They've been raiding Alliance shipping for decades. And the Aurelians, peaceful aquatic species, members of the Galactic Alliance. They've never been involved in any conflicts that I can find." Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. The Iron Resolve wasn't a warship, but it was tough. Built to handle asteroid fields and solar storms, it could take a beating. And his crew had learned to be resourceful during their years of dangerous work. "Nakamura," he said finally, "can the engines handle a 3-hour sprint?" The engineer thought for a moment. "They'll hold, Captain. Might need some major repairs afterward, but they'll hold." "What's in the cargo hold?" Rodriguez asked. "Mining equipment," Kim replied. "Plasma cutters, explosive charges, industrial fabricators. Standard colony startup package." Rodriguez smiled grimly. He had served in the Earth Defense Force before, becoming a merchant captain. He knew that the line between industrial equipment and weapons was often just a matter of perspective. "Set course for a U-7741, he ordered. "Maximum burn." "Are you sure about this, Captain?" Vasquez asked. "We don't even know what we're flying into." Rodriguez watched the distress signal continue to repeat on Kim's screen. Somewhere out there, people were going to die if no one came to help them. The Galactic Alliance might send ships eventually, but eventually might be too late. Someone's in trouble, he said. That's enough. The Iron Resolve changed course and jumped to hyperspace, racing toward a system where desperate people waited for salvation that might never come. The human freighter dropped out of hyperspace like a falling hammer. Captain Rodriguez gripped his command chair as the ship shuddered from the rough exit. Through the main screen, he could see the Aurelian mining colony, a beautiful structure of flowing curves and crystalline surfaces that seemed to grow naturally from the asteroid it was built on. 3 Vorthok raider ships circled it like sharks, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. Incoming transmission, Kim announced. It's from the lead raider ship. The main screen flickered, then showed the bridge of the Vorthok vessel. The captain was a massive reptilian creature with dark green scales and yellow eyes. Battle scars covered his thick neck, and metal spikes decorated his armor. When he spoke, his voice was like grinding gravel. Unknown vessel, you are entering a restricted combat zone. Identify yourself and state your business, or prepare to be destroyed. Rodriguez stood up slowly. He had dealt with bullies before, in the frontier colonies and shipping lanes of human space. The species might be different, but the attitude was always the same. This is Captain Marcus Rodriguez of the merchant vessel Iron Resolve. We received a distress call from this location. Are you conducting rescue operations? The Vorthok's eyes narrowed. His forked tongue flicked out to taste the air. I am War Commander Krexel of the Vorthok Empire. This facility has been seized for harboring illegal mining operations. You will leave immediately or be destroyed. Rodriguez looked at the damaged colony. Through the breaches in its hull, he could see lights moving in the corridors. The Aurelians were still alive, still fighting to survive. If this was a legitimate military operation, why were the Vorthok taking their time? We're here to help, Rodriguez said. If there are injured people in that facility, my crew can provide medical assistance. Krexel's laugh was like breaking glass. Help, you? What kind of pathetic species produces such small, weak creatures? You look like prey animals that learned to use tools. Behind Rodriguez, Nakamura muttered something uncomplimentary about reptilian intelligence. Vasquez checked her sidearm, even though they were still talking. Kim was already calculating defensive maneuvers, her military training taking over. This is your final warning, Krexel continued. Leave now, or my ships will turn your pathetic vessel into debris. Rodriguez looked at his crew. 12 people against 3 warships. It was suicide. It was insane. It was exactly the kind of impossible situation that humans had been facing since they first left Earth. Negative, Rodriguez said. We're not. Leaving Krexel's expression changed from amusement to rage. Then you will die with the rest of the criminals. The transmission cut out. Warning alarms began to sound as the Vorthok ships powered their weapons. 3 ships moving to intercept, Kim reported. Missile lock in 20 seconds. Nakamura, give me everything the engines have, Rodriguez ordered. Vasquez, get ready for casualties. Kim, plot us an attack vector. Attack, Kim asked. Captain, that's suicide. Rodriguez smiled grimly. Maybe, but we didn't come all this way just to watch people die. The Iron Resolve accelerated toward the Vorthok ships like a missile. Its industrial engines, designed to push massive loads through asteroid fields, drove the converted hauler forward at a speed that should have been impossible for a ship its size. The first Vorthok vessel fired a spread of missiles. Rodriguez waited until the last possible second. then used the ship's maneuvering thrusters in a way that violated every safety regulation in the book. The Iron Resolve twisted sideways and dove beneath the missile barrage, its hull groaning under forces it was never designed to handle. "Return fire," Rodriguez ordered. The ship's mining lasers, never meant for combat, lanced out at the nearest Vorthok vessel. The beams were designed to cut through solid rock, and the enemy's shields flared and failed under the unexpected assault. Armor plating glowed red, then white, then began to melt away. But the real surprise came when Nakamura activated the mining charges. The shaped explosives that normally blasted apart asteroids now hammered into the Vorthok ships with devastating effect. The first enemy vessel, crippled by the laser strikes, took a direct hit from a mining charge and broke apart in a ball of fire. On the Aurelian colony, Commander Lyra watched the impossible battle through a damaged observation port. The human ship moved like nothing she had ever seen. It fought like a wild animal, using tactics that no military academy would teach. It seemed to ignore its own safety completely, taking risks that should have destroyed it a dozen times over. The humans rammed one Vorthok ship, using their own hull as a weapon. They fired mining lasers at point-blank range, accepting damage to themselves to ensure their shots hit home. They moved through space like they were flying through an atmosphere, using their thrusters in ways that defied logic. One Vorthok ship was dead. Another was retreating, its hull cracked and bleeding atmosphere. The third was trying to regroup. But the human ship was already moving to engage it. Krexel's voice echoed across all frequencies. "What are these creatures? What kind of death world breeds such madness?" But the human ship was damaged too. Its hull was scarred, its engines running on auxiliary power. Smoke poured from several breaches in its armor. Yet it kept fighting, kept moving, kept protecting. The colony, the battle ended when the last Vorthok ship's engines exploded under sustained laser fire. The raiders spun out of control and crashed into a nearby asteroid, adding one more debris field to the system's collection. The human captain opened a channel to the colony. "This is Captain Rodriguez. We're coming aboard to render assistance. Prepare for emergency docking." But on the colony, the Aurelians were not preparing for rescue. They were hiding. Commander Lyra had watched these humans fight. She had seen them destroy ships 3 times their size using nothing but courage and improvised weapons. She had seen them accept terrible damage to themselves to save strangers they had never met, and she was terrified. The Aurelians had spent centuries studying the galaxy's peaceful species. They knew about high-gravity worlds and the creatures that evolved on them. But they had never encountered anything like these humans. These beings fought like they had nothing to lose. They took risks that should have been impossible. They seemed to feel no fear, no hesitation, no concern for their own survival. To the peaceful, graceful Aurelians, they looked like monsters, understanding. The monsters who saved the docking bay doors opened with a hiss of escaping atmosphere. Heavy footsteps echoed through the corridors as the human rescue team came aboard. Their voices were harsh and loud, speaking in tones that the colony's translation system struggled to process. Commander Lyra pressed herself against the observation window and got her first clear look at humanity. They were enormous. Even the smallest of them was nearly twice her height and easily 5 times her weight. Their bodies were thick with muscle and covered in scars. They moved with the easy confidence of apex predators. Their heavy boots, leaving marks on the colony's delicate crystalline floors. Their leader was the female with graying hair and cybernetic parts replacing portions of her left arm. She carried devices that could have been medical equipment or weapons with these creatures. The distinction seemed meaningless. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone used to command. Spread out and search for survivors, Dr. Vasquez ordered. Watch for structural damage. This place looks like it's held together with crystallized prayers. The humans began moving through the colony with mechanical efficiency. They sealed atmospheric leaks using foam dispensers from their ship. They stabilized damaged sections with temporary braces. They searched for signs of life with scanner devices that beeped and flashed with different colored lights. Their methods were rough and direct, but they were effective, and they were clearly trying to help. Lyra watched them work and felt her worldview shifting like tectonic plates. These creatures had traveled across space to answer a distress call from strangers. They had fought an impossible battle to save people they had never met. They were risking their lives to rescue beings who were now hiding from them in terror. What kind of species answered cries for help with such violent dedication? Dr. Vasquez knelt beside a wounded Aurelian in Corridor C7. The young colonist, barely more than a juvenile, had been caught in flying debris when the Vorthox first attacked. His left arm hung at an unnatural angle, and the bioluminescent patterns on his skin flickered weakly with pain. "Easy there," Vasquez said, her voice surprisingly gentle for someone who looked like she could tear steel with her bare hands. "You're going to be okay. I'm a doctor." The young Aurelian tried to pull away from her touch, his skin flashing the bright orange of terror. But when Vasquez's hands examined his injuries, her movements were impossibly careful. Her fingers, which looked strong enough to crush crystal, worked with the delicacy of a jeweler. "My name is Alina," she said, showing him a small medical scanner. "This device will help me see how badly you're hurt. I know I look scary, but I promise I'm here to help." The Aurelian didn't understand her words, but he understood her tone. This creature, this monster from a death world, was trying to heal him. Other Aurelians throughout the colony watched similar scenes through security feeds and observation ports. Humans worked to repair damaged systems with tools that looked like weapons of war. They moved fallen debris that would have required teams of Aurelians to shift. They sealed hull breaches with industrial-grade patches that would hold for months. And they were gentle. Despite their size and obvious power, despite the violence they had displayed in battle, they treated the delicate colony and its inhabitants with surprising care. Lyra finally made the decision that would change everything. She activated the internal communication system and spoke to her people. "All colonists, this is Commander Velta. The humans are here to help us. Please cooperate with their rescue efforts." Then she unlocked the command center doors and stepped into the corridor just as Captain Rodriguez rounded the corner. The human stopped when he saw her, his dark eyes studying her crystalline features and flowing fins. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Rodriguez slowly raised his hands, palms open in what Lyra hoped was a peaceful gesture. "Are you in charge here?" he asked, his words coming through the translation system as musical Aurelian speech. "I am Commander Lyra Veltar, Sr., administrator of this facility," she replied. Her voice came out as the harsh sounds of human language that her translator converted back to English. Rodriguez nodded. "Captain Marcus Rodriguez, Earth Merchant, Marine. We received your distress call. How many people are on this colony?" 847 researchers and support staff, Lyra said. "The Vorthax killed 19 during the initial attack. Many others are injured. My medic is working on the wounded Rodriguez said. But first, I need to understand what happened here. Why did the Vortex attack a mining facility? Lyra hesitated. The resonance crystals were the foundation of galactic civilization. Could she trust these violent, unpredictable creatures with such critical information? But then she remembered how they had fought for her people, how they had risked everything to answer a call for help from strangers. We mine resonance crystals. Here, she explained, they power hyperdrives throughout the galaxy. The Vortex wanted to steal our entire supply and destroy our research data. Rodriguez's expression darkened with anger. Lyra instinctively took a step back, remembering that she was talking to a predator from a death world. But the anger wasn't directed at her. They wanted to control galactic transportation, Rodriguez said. Cut off trade routes, isolate worlds, make everyone dependent on them. Yes, Lyra said. If they had succeeded, they could have held the entire alliance hostage. Rodriguez activated his communication device. Kim, how's our damage assessment? His communications officer's voice came back immediately. Hull integrity at 60%. Captain, number 2 engine is offline, and we've got fires on 3 decks, but we're space-worthy. Good. Start monitoring long-range sensors. I have a feeling those weren't the only Vorthok ships in this sector. As if summoned by his words, the colony's proximity alarms began screaming. Kim's voice came through the comm system with barely controlled panic. Captain, we've got multiple hyperspace signatures incoming. 7 ships, all Vorthok configuration. They'll be here in 30 minutes. Rodriguez was quiet for a moment, his scarred face showing no emotion. How long until Alliance reinforcements arrive? The ethereal collective received our signal, Lyra said, but their ships won't be here for at least 4 hours. 4 hours, Rodriguez repeated. He looked around at the damaged colony, at the frightened Aurelians watching from doorways and observation ports. Kim, what's our combat readiness? We've got maybe 2 missiles left and half power to the mining lasers. The hull can't take another direct assault like the last one. Rodriguez nodded slowly. Then he did something that shocked every Aurelian who witnessed it. He smiled, not the predatory grin of a hunting carnivore, but the calm, confident expression of someone who had made peace with impossible odds. Nakamura, he called over the comm. How much mining equipment did we bring? Full colonial startup package, Captain. Why? Because we're going to turn this rock into a fortress. Over the next hour, Lyra watched in amazement as the humans transformed her peaceful research colony into something resembling a military installation. They used plasma cutters to create firing positions in the outer walls. They rigged mining charges to create defensive minefields around the colony's perimeter. They reprogrammed the crystal processing equipment to overload and explode on command. But most impressive was how they worked with her people. Despite the language barriers and obvious physical differences, the humans treated the Aurelians as partners, not helpless victims. They asked for advice about the colony's systems. They listened to suggestions about defensive positions. They even convinced some of the braver Aurelians to help with the preparations. Dr. Vasquez had converted the medical bay into a triage center, training Aurelian medics in human emergency medicine. Chief Nakamura worked alongside Aurelian engineers to boost the colony's shields using principles that neither species had discovered alone. Lieutenant Kim shared targeting data with the colony's sensor operators, combining human tactical knowledge with Aurelian precision. But it was Captain Rodriguez who impressed Lyra the most. He moved through the colony like a natural leader, inspiring confidence in both humans and Aurelians. He had a word of encouragement for every frightened colonist, a solution for every technical problem, a calm certainty that somehow made the impossible seem achievable. "Why are you doing this?" Lyra asked him as they watched his crew install the last of the defensive systems. "Your ship is damaged. Your people are injured. You could leave and no one would blame you." Rodriguez was quiet for a moment, watching Dr. Vasquez teach a group of young Aurelians how to treat plasma burns. "My grandmother used to tell me a story," he said finally, "about a man who saw someone drowning in a river. The man couldn't swim very well, and the river was dangerous. But he jumped in anyway, because that's what you do when someone needs help." "Did he save them?" "Both of them nearly drowned," Rodriguez admitted. "But a passing boat saw the commotion and rescued them. Both. Sometimes being willing to try is enough to make the impossible possible." The Vorthok fleet arrived exactly on schedule. 7 ships, each larger than the one Rodriguez had destroyed earlier. They formed a battle formation around the colony and opened fire without warning or negotiation. But they weren't facing the same helpless research station they had expected. The colony's shields, boosted by human engineering, absorbed the first barrage. Returned fire from improvised weapons positions caught the Vorthoks by surprise. Mining charges detonated among their ships, disrupting their formation and forcing them to change tactics. The battle that followed would become legendary among both species. The Aurelians, inspired by human courage, fought with a determination they had never known they possessed. The humans, supported by Aurelian precision and knowledge, turned limited resources into devastating weapons. Rodriguez commanded the defense from the colony's control center, his voice calm and steady over the communication system. "Remember, we don't have to defeat them. We just have to hold until help arrives." But as the battle raged, it became clear that help might not arrive in time. The colony's shields were failing. The improvised weapons were running out of ammunition. The Vortex were adapting to human tactics, bringing their superior firepower to bear. That's when Rodriguez made his final sacrifice. He took the Iron Resolve, already damaged beyond repair, and used it as a guided missile. He aimed the ship directly at the Vorthok command vessel, its cargo hold filled with every explosive device they had left. "Tell them we were here," he said to Lyra over the com as his ship accelerated toward the enemy. "Tell them, humans," answered the call. The explosion lit up the entire system. The Vorthok command ship disintegrated instantly, and 3 others were crippled by the blast. The remaining ships, demoralized and leaderless, withdrew into hyperspace. The ethereal collective arrived 2 hours later to find the colony still, standing, defended by creatures they had never encountered before. The survivors told them about the humans who had answered a call for help meant for someone else, about the monsters who had turned out to be saviors, about the species that would travel across the galaxy to protect strangers. Commander Lyra made sure the story was recorded in the Alliance archives. She wanted future generations to know that when the peaceful people of the galaxy called for help, humanity answered, not because they had to, not because they were asked to, but because someone was in trouble, and that was enough. Asterisk.